ever stared at an old man outside yelling at a cloud and thought, you know what this guy needs to do? Start a YouTube channel and then give me his opinions about music. Well, look no further than Rick Beato, a well-renowned music commentator for a good long while now. And this video just kind of pissed me off so badly that I just kind of felt the need to talk about it. Kind of like with the new norm, to be honest. A couple of weeks ago, Rick put out a video called The Real Reason Why Music is Getting Worse. And basically, the crux of it is it's getting worse because people are getting too reliant on technology and there's an oversaturation of music in the market. We're gonna get into all that, but first I wanna lay down a few ground rules. Number one, so first I wanna say I am mainly into electronic music, pop music, and hip hop. And all three of these genres couldn't really have been made without, technology. So I'm generally quite defensive when people say, oh, all these new synthesizers and these new programs, autotune is ruining music, nobody has any talent anymore. It's just completely false. I also used to mess around in FL Studio for a few years, and so I like to think that I know my way around like a music production piece of software. Certainly not the best at it, but here, just listen to something I made when I was like 15. Bad, right? In addition to producing music electronically, I also do have experience playing like real instruments. I'm kind of saying all of this because I'm not exactly the most technical person when it comes to describing music, but I do want to let people know, hey, I do have a bit of credibility here. Just a smidge, not a ton, but I do know a little bit about music. Thing number two I want to clear up before we get started is Rick talks a fair bit about AI music production, which, in my opinion, is stealing, just like any AI-generated art. That's kind of not what I want to focus on today, so we're just going to avoid talking about AI altogether and just talk about if current music production tools are making music worse. But before we do, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button down below. By the way, holy shit! The support on my last video, where I tried this commentary style for the first time, the reception to it kind of blew me away because I was just so in my own head about whether I was being funny or entertaining or, providing any value at all on YouTube. So it's just so nice to see that so many of you are very receptive to it. Yeah, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I feel the drive to keep doing this. But yeah, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. I now have the analytics where it tells me how many people watch my videos who aren't subscribed, so I can be annoying, just like a real YouTuber. Okay, enough beating around the bush. Let's watch.
Music is too easy to make.
What do I mean by music is too easy to make? Let's just go back to the 1940s and 50s. Frank Sinatra used to get up in front of an orchestra and sing a vocal take, and they had one microphone. And they would get it balanced just right. Frank would say, okay, I'm ready to do it. And he'd sing. And then you have things where you have multi-track machines. You could go in if you had a mistake in a vocal part or any instrument and you do a punch in. Oh, I don't like that word. I sang it out of tune, or I want to change this lyric. You go in and you just punch in, fix the line, punch out. Fast forward to 1998 with Cher, the Believe song. They invented this thing, auto-tune. That I've talked about this a million times on here. But say the song's in C major. Any note in the key of C major, it would tune the note to.
So here he goes along the line of evolution of music production tools, punching in to re-record a little bit of a line, all the way to autotune. But I think what Rick is fundamentally misunderstanding is that these aren't replacements for talent.
And then they give you this tool called Beat Detective. Then you can actually quantize an entire part. So then it becomes like a drum machine. So it's not human-like. Now here's the actual human performance of John Bonham. Notice the swing in it. Once you quantize the drum part, it's a drum machine. You typically have these crappy drummers that you'd have to fix their parts, and once you fix their parts, you start moving the bass around, you start moving the guitars around, and then you pretty much have sterile, generic, quantized rock music that has no vibe at all.
Okay, so here he goes into a lot of detail about drums and quantization and how music producers have to fix shitty drummers' mistakes. And specifically with drums, I don't think he's realizing that there's so much more that goes into drumming rather than just, being a good drummer. You also have to think, who is talented at composing patterns for drums? You could be the best drummer in the world, but if you're doing a 4 on the floor with a snare on the 2, that's boring. Nobody wants to listen to that. There's just so much more that goes into drumming rather than just quantization. It's because people aren't creative with their placements of the hi-hats. People aren't creative with their placements of the kick. It also depends on the individual song, because sometimes the drums might not even be that important. Sometimes you just need a vehicle to like transport the melody or like the lyrics or whatever the hell you're trying to do. It's just so context specific that putting it under this broad generalization of quantization is bad, it really undermines the creativity that it takes to actually come up with the patterns themselves.
The other thing that people realize is that it's really difficult and time consuming to record a drum set. You need a studio and a lot of gear. But to get a professional drum sound, you tend to mic up the different instruments. I got 2 mics on the bass drum, I got a mic on this tom, mic on that tom, mic on the ride, 2 mics on the overheads, 2 mics on the snare here. I actually have 3 mics on the snare and a mic on the hi-hat, and I have a couple room mics. It's hard to record it well. Now, some of you are out there thinking, what are you talking about, Rick? You don't need to have a good sounding room. You can have a crappy sounding room. You don't even need good mics, because you're going to just replace everything with samples. Well, where do you think samples come from? They come from people that know how to record them.
There's also like an element of this that I don't like that comes off as there's no other way to put it, classist. Because do you seriously expect every person who wants to make drums for the song to afford a drum kit, afford a bunch of mics, afford a studio to record everything in, afford somebody to mix and master the drum sounds? Or if you literally are so technologically advanced that you could just like do all that shit yourself, you still need money to like buy things to build a studio. Oh my god, my hips. Call me Shakira because my hips have been lying the entire time. My hip tracker was just totally off. What the fuck? Oh my god. Okay. No wonder I looked so stiff on camera. I thought I was doing something wrong. You still have to worry about things like pitch, or does the snare come off too strong, or do these toms sound right? Because you have to flip through like 5 million samples to actually find something that suits your song and the creative idea that you're going for. And so to really devalue that kind of work and creative thought is kind of insane to me.
It's difficult to get a good guitar sound. You have to have a good sounding amp, you have to have good sounding speakers, good microphones that work well. Most people now just use amp modelers. They plug into their computer, they pull up their program, everything is done for them. They've already been pre-mic'd, pre-selected, they're all using the same algorithms. They can create great sounds. They're so easy to use. Doesn't take any skill at all, but it doesn't take any creativity either.
Rick is just completely wrong on both of those fronts because A, you need the skill to like learn how a computer program operates. And as for creativity, recording guitars now, you just have like an unlimited potential of what your guitar could sound like. And if you want to go with the preset, that's totally fine. That should not prevent you from making music if it just so happens that somebody has the exact sound that you were looking for already made. If it makes it a quicker process to have your idea get down into like an actual format that you can listen to, I'd say that's a good thing. And of course, again, the fucking, people being able to afford it thing and the accessibility of making art. Art should be, in my opinion, as accessible to make as possible because there are so many people with so many fantastic ideas, but if they don't have the means to, like, actually put these ideas into a form that people can experience, then that's fucking worthless. And then he goes ahead and says the same bullshit about MIDI pianos too.
Then, of course, you have the MIDI packs that you can buy if you can't play keyboards. So it'll just have pre-programmed chord progressions because for some reason, people can't just kind of space their fingers out and learn to play a few chords like that. Or maybe just experiment. What is this? What is this?
Or maybe, just a thought, there's the finite amount of chords that you can make on a keyboard that sound good. It's not like you can just experiment with like literally any key combination. It's not a fucking McDonald's soda machine. With music theory, there is a rhyme and a reason for the way chords are. There is a finite amount of chords and musical notes in the world. And if you could just like drag and drop the exact one that you were thinking of into a piano roll, I don't see any issue with that. Again, if it helps with your process of getting your idea into reality, I seriously don't see the problem with it. Of course, as long as it's your own idea. Obviously, don't fucking steal things.
Why is this a bad thing? Well, let's start with the creative dependency on technology limits the ability of people to innovate, I believe. Could be wrong about that.
He also just completely glosses over the fact that synthesizers exist. And that fact that you can basically customize a synthesizer to sound like quite literally anything that you could imagine. And there's two things that you need to use a synthesizer properly: skill and creativity. First, you need the skill in order to know how to use the program, how to properly manipulate aspects of the sound so that you get exactly what you're going for. And number two, it takes creativity. It takes like artistic drive to know what sound you're trying to create. Or even if you're just experimenting, to be honest, that still takes creative energy. So I just don't get this point of a lot of technology reduces the barrier of like skill. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Sure, it's a different type of skill than it is like playing a guitar or playing a piano, but it's still a valuable creative skill.
The homogenization of music. The over-reliance on similar tools, as I just brought up with the amp models, creates a lack of diversity. I think that leads to music becoming more formulaic and people just following trends of using certain types of sounds. This is why these trap beats have been in vogue for the last 20 years. People they know they work, so they just keep using them all the time.
No, people are influenced by the music that they hear. And therefore, people want to create things that are similar to the things that they hear because they like them. That's just like not how trends work at all. And people know they work, so they just use them all the time. That's not a symptom of it being easier to produce music now. That's a symptom of capitalism and everybody trying to, earn money. God, I like money. Please give me money. If a certain type of music is trending, the music industry is gonna get their grubby little paws in it and like rip it to shreds for all it's worth. Like look at bedroom pop right now.
The process go faster, which creates an oversaturation of music, making it harder to find really exceptional things.
I just want to touch on this lightly because I don't have a lot to say. But if you can't find exceptional music that you like, you're bad at Googling. You are very bad at researching if you can't find music that you like. Because it's so oversaturated, that means there's even more like possibilities. Music doesn't get like drowned out as a lot of these people try to claim. Everybody has the ability to like, find people that enjoy listening to their music, whether it's like, a huge online following, or maybe you just have some friends that want to listen to you in real life, or maybe you're playing a live show, in real life. So it's definitely not impossible to find music that you like because of oversaturation. It's hard to find music that you like that you think is exceptional, as he puts it, because you're bad at Googling things. By the way, we're gonna get into him being bad at Googling things a little bit later. Oh my God, I'm so fucking excited.
Music is too easy to consume. So this is the water faucet in my kitchen. But imagine this is streaming on Spotify or Apple Music. You can turn it on, you can turn it off, but what's going on in the stream of water is all of the music that's on these platforms. Now imagine this is one artist's entire output, their entire catalog. This dropper is each of their songs. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I just did a whole record there. And eventually you exhaust their whole catalog. When I hit this and I start to stream, the music has very little importance if you think about it this way. It goes from the faucet down the drain, out to the sewer, where it's recycled again. Except in this case, the music is not recycled like it is through the sewer. There were 100,000 new songs added every day in 2023 to streaming platforms.
So he just didn't complete the analogy. He just kind of stopped the analogy there, which is a horrible way to make your point. If anything, I would argue that music absolutely is recycled. I think that the accessibility of music, to listen to rather than produce, makes it easier than ever to recycle your favorite albums. Because we have little computers in our pockets all the time. We all have earbuds that allow us to just listen to literally anything at any time. And you're telling me that people are just gonna immediately forget about an album that they really like? Not to mention, a bunch of old music is uploaded to Spotify, Apple Music, all of these streaming services as well. They're still classics and people want to revisit them. So it just that analogy just doesn't make any fucking sense.
By comparison, when I was a kid, if I wanted to buy this Led Zeppelin II record, I had to get a job or borrow money from my parents to buy it. You actually had to expend energy riding your bike or walking to your job, working your shift, getting your paycheck at the end of the week, depositing it in the bank, getting money out, going to the record store, buying the record, bringing it home, playing it, listening to it a bunch of times, going over to your friend's house, sharing it with them. When a kid opens Spotify and clicks on a song, they can just skip to the next one if they don't like it. Think about this. all of the music that exists, or at least it's been uploaded to Spotify or Apple Music, is available for $10.99 a month. $10.99 a month for the price of what we used to pay for one album. It's all available on these streaming platforms, which is why music is not as valued by young people. There is no sweat equity put into obtaining it, having it be part of your collection, having it be part of your identity of who you are. What I'm saying is that music has basically become valueless. If you only have to pay $10.99 a month to have access to anything, what is one song worth?
Okay, so that's fucking insane. This is the point in the video where I was like, okay, I need to strap on my VR shit and make a video about this, because what a crazy take. Music is becoming valueless because we are paying less for it, and it's becoming less of a social activity. Fucking what? What the fuck are you talking about? Music is not valuable to people because it has a monetary value. Music is valuable to people because they emotionally connect with it. It's just that people emotionally connect with it in a different form now, in a more accessible form, which is actually a beautiful thing because people are able to experience types of music that they would have never in a million years tried without the internet. He's also trying to say that music is losing its social value, which is just totally wrong as well. It's actually easier than ever to share songs that you like with your friends. You can just hit copy link on Spotify and then text that link to your friend. They hit that link, the song automatically opens on Spotify. It's incredibly easy to share music that you love with your friends now. You don't love it because you paid for it. You love that music because it speaks to you and who you are. Fucking Spotify Wrapped is probably the best example that I could come up with for this. Spotify Wrapped is literally the season of year where everybody on the internet is sharing the music that they listen to. Music is not depreciating in value because music isn't something that can be defined with objective value. And that is where I want to leave my points for this particular video. It's unfortunate that he also made an even worse follow-up.
I want to address some of the comments and emails I've gotten in response to my last video, the real reason music is getting worse. I'll just read two that just came in. They're right in a row. An old man talking about how they don't make music like they used to, how fresh. Or music changes and the reason you don't like it is because you're getting older.
People weren't angry with you because they didn't think you were appreciating new music, which, you aren't. But people are upset with you for the fact that you aren't willing to accept new ways of producing it.
The point of the first part of the video, music is too easy to make, was that people rely on using technology to fix things or make up for the fact that they don't want to spend the time to get good at something. Whether it's playing an instrument, recording, or they just don't want to spend the years it takes to become good enough to record things.
That has never, ever been the case. If somebody's bad at singing, but they use autotune to try to cover it up, I'm just using autotune as an example. Autotune doesn't fix somebody's ability to sing. Autotune gives your voice like a more robotic, perfect quality to it, which, depending on the track that you're making, could be a good stylistic choice. I've already gone over all this shit, so let's just skip to the part that absolutely fucking baffled me.
People don't care about music as much as they used to, and that's a big statement. If you don't believe it, here are the receipts. If I type in music in 2004, music was at 100%, and where is it now? It's down to 25%. So search traffic on the topic of music has dropped 75% in the last 20 years. Well, what about art? Is that any different than music? That's down 60%. So I guess people don't care about art or music.
Yeah, I just kind of burst out laughing when I watched this for the first time because who the fuck Googles the word music? Literally nobody. Literally nobody. This is a crazy way to try to back up your claims. This is what I was talking about when I say, Rick, you are horrible at Googling things if you can't find talented people. Like, get the fuck out of here. The way that most people hear about music now is through social media. So if they're hearing about music through social media, they likely already know the title of the song, already know the artist of the song, or know the genre. And searching music is not going to be helpful in finding what you're looking for. That's why it's gone down. The reason it was so high at the beginning of Google is because it was a brand new thing and people just weren't sure how to find things yet. The reason it's gone down is not because music is becoming devalued is because people know how to find shit more easily now. The exact same thing with art. Like, nobody just Googles art and expects things that they want to see to show up. You Google things like best horror movies 2024 or best vintage horror movies. I don't know why I'm stuck on horror movies. Or you Google impressionist paintings. You don't Google art. I'm sure Rick has some like valid opinions about music, but he was just like totally off base with everything he said here. Anyway, that's all I had to say. I think he made some pretty silly arguments. If you liked this, let me know. Leave a comment, DM me with anything that you would like me to talk about. Go to my link tree and join my Discord server. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on TikTok, follow me on Instagram. Let's see, are there any other apps that you need to follow me on that devalue music? I don't think so, no. Oh God, I've been recording for like an hour. This is gonna take forever to edit. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye. Mwah.